Kelsey sits on a hospital bed in Maine, staring at the sterile walls. Her ribs feel like prison bars, her heartbeat a frantic metronome. She's exactly 15, but caught in a strange place, one where her body fights to heal, yet her mind clings to the sickness she chased. How can something you'll yourself into still take control? That paradox pulls us into Kelsey's world, where disappearance becomes both a rebellion and a trap. Kelsey's journey begins with obsession, when anorexia isn't a tragedy but a coveted identity. How did starving become so seductive and so personal? At 14, Kelsey read memoirs where women counted calories like secrets. She memorized magazine articles, the cruelest tips for being thin, as if learning dark magic. Her notebook bristled with rules, how to be the best anorexic, turning starvation into a project, a badge of honor. This hunger for knowledge was also a hunger for power, wrapping trauma in a dangerous allure. Imagine trying to disappear into thin air at a crowded party. Anorexia is exactly that, a vanishing act. Like a magician folding into shadows, the disorder tricks the mind into thinking control means erasing your body. But the illusion is brutal. The more you vanish, the more visible you become to pain, to fear, to isolation that screams louder than any applause. Kelsey's story flips the script on victimhood. She willed her sickness, yet it took her hostage. The hospital bed is both a cage and a stage for this conflict. The control she craved traps her in paradox, forcing a harsh reckoning. Sometimes the battles we choose are the ones that consume us whole, leaving us lost in our own vanishing act. The stories we tell about anorexia often clash with its brutal reality. Kelsey peels back the myths layered over her experience, exposing raw, uncomfortable truths. When Kelsey landed in hospital, she entered an existential wormhole, a strange space where time and identity blurred. Here she could see her sickness both as a villain and something she invited. The sterile walls echoed questions without answers. How do you fight an enemy you once welcomed? This limbo was frightening and vital, a crucible for painful self-honesty. Mirrors become a battleground. For Kelsey, seeing her reflection was like reading a distorted novel where the protagonist was cruel and unfamiliar. The image is both enemy and obsession. She recalls tearing at skin, measuring shadows on bones, chasing an unattainable ideal while knowing the mirror lies. It's a battlefield where truth and delusion clash daily. Rehab meant dismantling illusions piece by piece. It wasn't just food, it was reclaiming voice, body, history. Kelsey's breakthrough came when she realized recovery wasn't surrender but rebellion against the disorder's grip. In that painful transformation, she discovered freedom in vulnerability, a surprising strength she once refused to acknowledge. Anorexia doesn't just live inside, it's woven in community and silence. Kelsey shows how society's whispers and loud judgments entangle the disorder. Kelsey's hunger was also fed by culture's quiet codes. Magazines, websites whispered admiration for control and thinness. Eating disorders live in the spaces people won't talk about, making them contagious yet cloaked. She learned anorexia in a social echo chamber where sickness was both secret and status, a dark rite of passage across teenage bedrooms and online forums. Silence is powerful. It protects by hiding pain, but it also traps. Family dinners and friends avoid mentioning what's obvious, turning absence into an unspoken contract. Kelsey describes silence as a web sticky and invisible because not naming the problem lets it grow unchecked. This social quiet cultivates shame, isolation, and misunderstood suffering. True disappearance happens when silence breaks. Kelsey found that speaking out, claiming her story, released her from invisibility's chokehold. Her journey shows how breaking the social code of silence is an act of courage, transforming vulnerability into connection, and finally, reclaiming self beyond anorexia's shadow. Back on that hospital bed, Kelsey's ribs still cage, but her mind begins a fragile revolt. Disappearance wasn't about vanishing, but about understanding what made her feel invisible in the first place. Try this. The next time control feels like freedom, ask yourself, what am I really trying to disappear from? Sometimes the bravest act is holding onto yourself. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.